When it comes to the higher levels for sailing, people have been leveling two different ways, either Barracuda Trials for max XP or taking the more reclined approach through salvaging. Something a lot of people haven't been doing are port tasks. Well, they've been buffed recently, and I was already working on a guide that was going to offer some very good rates compared to what I've seen online, but now they are even better. With port tasks and the information in this video, you'll be able to get over 200k per hour with a rosewood hull, and even if you don't have that, with a camphor or ironwood hull, you're looking at 175 to 180k per hour, all while having the best chance to get the sailing pet. Let's first talk about your boat. If you have a rosewood hull, I highly recommend using a skiff. It's just as fast as a sloop, but it comes with some key benefits like increased maneuverability, fitting into tighter spots, and moving between your cargo and your helm takes less ticks. Now you might be thinking by using a skiff that you're going to have less crewmates on your boat helping you carry the cargo. This is not true. If you go and lift cargo while you're in a skiff, you're still going to use all your available crewmates. So it doesn't matter if you're on a skiff versus a sloop. Now, a sloop will allow you to add a few extra kegs on your boat, and this can get you something like increased ocean encounters or 2.5% sailing XP. If you're doing camphor or ironwood, technically the sloop does have a higher speed cap, but I feel like you're not hitting the speed cap too often to make it worth some of the other benefits you're giving up from a skiff. So I would still recommend a skiff here. If you do use a sloop, something you will need to keep in mind, the crystal extractor is great for getting the extra wind motes, and you'll want it by the helm because you'll be on the helm a lot of the times. A lot of people with sloops right now have their crystal extractor by their net or their hook, which makes sense. So you'll have to move it if you plan on using a sloop. Whereas if you plan on using a skiff, you're likely using the one you're using in Barracuda Trials, and you're going to have it right by your helm anyways. For boat facilities, it's all pretty standard. You'll want the wind/gale catcher for extra speed, the crystal extractor for the extra moat as well is great. A teleport focus is needed for this method, and if you're using a sloop, you do have the option to add the kegs I've already mentioned. For your inventory setup, the Sailor's Amulet, obviously we're always carrying this around to get to Defin and Port Roberts. Defin is particularly great because it's right in front of a charter ship, and this can allow you to move to various points of interest. You're also going to bring some cash to be able to use that charter ship, and you can bring the Ring of Kairos to save costs doing that. You'll also want to bring runes to be able to teleport your boat to you, and also if you don't have a concape, bring the runes to be able to teleport to your house. And I recommend your house is set in Aladrin, and you can set your teleport to be outside to save some time. You can also bring a teleport to Rellekka. This could be the Fremennik boots, or again, you can go through your POH if you have a concape, but you generally don't need to go to Rellekka after the first time you go there because we're usually going to end our trips there anyways. Other than that, you want your captain's log, and I recommend setting your left click to view tasks. And if you're doing the clan ocean encounters, you're going to bring the appropriate items to be able to give to the clan to get those pearls back. Let's get into how this method works. So you probably have already heard of ABA tasks. If you haven't, what those mean are you get a task at a location that ends at that location you're getting the task. So it requires you to leave this location, pick up something, and bring it back. Now, obviously, intuitively, it doesn't make sense to make that round trip. So instead, we teleport to the starting locations and then simply pick up the cargo and bring them here. So what you need to do with this method is you're going to go to Lunar Isle, Etceteria, and Rellekka, and you're going to pick up the ABA task from those locations. Once you have all those ABA tasks, you're going to start at the furthest south location, work your way up picking up all the cargo, and then deliver them to Lunar Isle, Etceteria, and Rellekka. Now, something a lot of people haven't mentioned, when you get to Lunar Isle, and let's say you're delivering 2, you want to pick up tasks from the board, and you have room to pick up 2. So you're going to get more ABA tasks when you make the delivery. When you go to Etceteria, you're going to do the same thing. When you go to Rellekka, you're going to do the same thing, thus restarting the cycle. There's no need to teleport to them afterwards. There's no need to clear out your board and then go grab tasks. You want to grab them as you're delivering. That's the very basic rundown of the method, but we're going to go into the advanced details a little bit further. First thing I want to mention has to do with filling up your tasks, and this is where a lot of people sometimes feel like they've got bad RNG and they couldn't fill up their 5 tasks or 4 tasks if you're below level 84. Well, you don't have to fill up all 5 tasks. This is because usually you're going to start your journey in Aladrin as your most southern place, and in Aladrin on the board there is always an Aladrin to Prif task. And this task gives 3200 XP. It's actually pretty good XP considering it's a one-way task. A lot of times this could be better than some of the ABA tasks you would have taken anyways. And not only that, when you get this task and then deliver it in Prif there is always a Prif to Lunar task that will also get you something like 2,500 XP. So really just from doing those tasks, which takes up one spot, you're getting about 5,500 experience, which is actually pretty solid. So when you're going through Lunar, Etceteria, and Rellekka, keep that in mind, especially if you're going back to Aladrin or Sunset Coast to start your journey. That is always a great filler task to include. That's how you fill up your task board, but now I want to talk about Lunar Isle, Etceteria, and Rellekka, and exactly what tasks you're going to be grabbing, which ones are really good, and ones you might avoid. For Lunar Isle, pretty much all the ABA tasks are fairly decent. So you're definitely going to take the Aladrin one because that's often a starting location, and it's like 11,000 experience, which is very, very good. A Deep Fin one is also pretty good. Deep Fin is sometimes out of the way, but this task here is really, really good XP. It's always worth taking. One to Civitas is very nice. Port Roberts, very nice. The Prif one is pretty good as well. The thing is, this is a potion delivery, and the Aladrin one is also a potion delivery. So if they both show up on the board, you can only take one, and you definitely take the Aladrin one because of the XP it gives you. There's also going to be an ABA task to Port Piscarilius, which Port Piscarilius is a little bit out of the way sometimes. It depends on the route you get. This one could be up in the air. Sometimes you're going to enjoy doing it. Other times it's going to be out of the way. And then the last one is Piscatoris. This one is a fairly short route, but it's actually pretty decent XP, and I do take this most of the time it pops up. For the Etceteria notice board, I go for the Sunset Coast task. This one's really great. Port Roberts is pretty good as well. Piscatoris is decent, especially if you have the Lunar Isles one already. The Port Piscarilius one, again, as I mentioned before, sometimes I avoid Port Piscarilius. It's not the worst if you already have the Lunar one, of course. Another one that is sometimes a little bit of a sleeper is the Nader's Knot one. Nader's Knot is very close, but it's still a good amount of XP for this one. But I will say, you don't necessarily have to grab this one if you know you're going back to Aladrin anyways, because the Prif task actually ends up being quite a bit better. The exception would be that if for whatever reason you have a route that's currently staying a lot on the western side, then you could maybe avoid Prif and stay 100% to the west. There's a little bit of decision making to make here, but this one isn't that bad. The ones that I will tend to avoid here, definitely the Yatizo one. It's too little XP to be worth the slot, so I won't get that one. The Rellekka one doesn't make sense. I never want to end in Etceteria, so I never grab this one because I want to end in Rellekka instead. And then the other one I won't grab is the Hosidius one. And then we have Rellekka. In terms of ABA task here, the Sunset Coast one is the best one. So this you're taking like 99% of the time, barring some weird routes that you've gotten from the other two locations. Port Tyrus, this one I found ended up being a little bit less common on the list, but it is a very good task. Port Tyrus is a location you'll visit somewhat uncommonly, but it being close to Prif and close to the portals makes it a good location to go to specifically for this task. Port Roberts is another decent one. Port Roberts is a very popular location for all these areas, so a lot of times you'll pick up 2 or 3 from Port Roberts. Port Piscarilius, as mentioned earlier, sometimes out of the way, but sometimes okay to take if you have other stops there or you're staying on the western side of the coast. Piscatoris, again, this one's okay, surprisingly decent XP. The Nader's Knot one, it is okay XP, it's actually less than the Etceteria one, and this would be another one, especially since Rellekka is your last location. If you're going back to Aladrin anyways, you probably will not take this one if you know you're going to get a task in Aladrin. If you're short on task, obviously you're going to take this one and get the one in Aladrin I mentioned earlier. The Yatizo one, this is another one where most of the time it's not worth it, but it's a little bit better than the Etceteria Yatizo one. So there might be a chance on a bad RNG case where you do grab this one, but again, hopefully you're just going to fill up with the Aladrin task if you're low on good tasks heading to Rellekka. And the one I definitely don't take here is the Etceteria one. Even though this is going the right way, it is very, very little XP, like 800 XP. It's never worth taking. Something that's really important with this method are using the rapids, and I recommend charting all the areas around here because the rapids come in handy quite a bit. There's always going to be 1 or 2 rapids you can hit in between rocks and near the coast, but some of the key clusters, Sunset Coast here, when you're leaving, there's about 6 in a row. The Coliseum catapult over here has about 12 in a row that can get you to either Port Roberts or Civitas very quickly. If you end up at Port Tyrus, you're always really going to Prif next. You got about 6 here plus some crystal motes you can get. Now when you're at Port Roberts, a lot of times you end up going to Prif, but you might go north to Piscarilius or Lunar Isle. That's where you can use the Chinchompa bend here to launch yourself to the Lunar Isle, and you have a lot along the way if you're going that route, or if you're going to Piscarilius. When you're leaving this, you're always going to Lunar, so definitely use the rapids just north to get yourself to Lunar quicker. The rest of the route, there's a couple here and there, but definitely the beginning of the route is more important. One massive tip I want to talk about is the Prif skip. This is using the portals in the Gwyneth Glide to enable you to skip a large chunk of moving, which will speed up your XP per hour, of course. And there's 2 ways that you can do this. You can hit the blue portal, and then once you go through the blue portal, you can then hit the red portal, and that'll put you just north of the coast. This is a pretty good skip because there's a couple wind motes you're picking up as well, the little crystal motes, and you'll end up with more wind than you had previously. There is a more simple route you can go though, and this is the black portal to the north. You simply take this portal and then there's an exit of the course here. An advanced tip I recommend is that when you're reaching a port, especially the ones where you're just picking up cargo, make sure you position your boat in the direction you want it to go right before disembarking. This could be a complete 180, for example, and when you disembark, the boat will continue to rotate in that direction quite a bit. If any of this information is helpful or it's going to make you enjoy port tasks a little bit more, consider leaving a like on the video or subscribing if you really enjoyed it. It helps us support the channel, which ultimately allows me to create more videos for you guys. Something that's extremely important is that you need to be at the helm. When you trim the sails or use a wind boat, it is a full duration speed boost, but when a crewmate does it, it's a very short duration. And I'm not sure if this is like a bug or something, or if it's intended. If it is a bug, I'll leave a pin comment below if it ever gets fixed. But this means that you got to be at the helm, and the only exception might be when you're getting to a port. You could put someone else on the helm, which will allow you to take cargo out of the cargo hold. It'll allow you to more easily rotate the boat before disembarking, and when you go back on the boat, you can start the boat right away by setting the sails. I don't do this because I find it a little too inconsistent, but definitely give it a try. All right, enough about theory here. Let's show off a run or two. So I did pick up tasks already. So I went to all 3 of the boards. I went to Lunar Isle, Etceteria, and Rellekka. And you only need to really go there once. And once you're in the cycle like this, you're just picking up tasks as you go. So here's what we got. We have 2 to Lunar Isle, so Port Roberts and Aladrin, which I picked up the Aladrin one. We have 1 to Etceteria and 1 to Rellekka. Now, I did pick up this one here, Aladrin to Prif, because I didn't like the other options I had. If we take a look at the map, you can use the port task plugin to see this. Just based on this path here, I think I have a plan. I'm going to go to Port Roberts first, and then I'm going to go over to Prif, take the skip upwards, maybe the black portal here, and then go to Piscarilius, make my way up. Now we're coming up on the first chain of rapids here, which is really great along the coast, the Coliseum catapult here. When I hit this last one right here, I'm just going to turn north, get that boost, get the crystal extractor, and this here brings me straight to Port Roberts. I can even take a look at the map if I want, look at my tasks, and I'm going to disembark, but I'm going to allow the speed boost to kind of fully utilize and then disembark near the end there. Just a little bit more efficient. Pick up this cargo. And now we're going to Prif, so we're going to use this speed boost and basically go straight across. This is the case where, because we got the task from Aladrin to go to Prif, I'm picking up the next one as well. And it's always the same task. I don't even need to look at this board. I'm just looking for Lunar. There it is. It's always here, no matter what. Let's go through the black portal here to show this skip off. And this could be the portal you always take. Like if this is more comfortable for you, great, do this one. All right, so we went through the black portal and we just exit here. There we go. We are going to click in the direction we want the boat and disembark. Now we could have trimmed the sails there, which would have been nice. No big deal, but you can see the boat rotated perfectly here. Now we're good to go to Lunar Isle. So I used these speed boosts here. I try to wiggle through as many as possible. I usually at the end go for 2 straight in a row because you get too fast to do the wiggle. We're handing off 3 Lunar Isle deliveries here. There's a 14k drop there. 14 plus 5. Pretty good. That's just under 20k, I believe. Look at the board. What do we got? So we have these 2. So deep fin, we're going to grab that, and we're going to grab the Prif one here. When we're going to Etceteria, I pretty much always take this route, which puts you right by Nader's Knot and Yatizo, which makes these decent pickups as well if you have tasks here. But as mentioned, sometimes the Aladrin Prif one is better. Now this rapid here is extremely stubborn, so come in a little bit on the inside left side here. You need to go like directly over it to get the boost. If you're a little bit to the right, it's just not going to count. And then over here, Yatizo, there's one I'm going to grab here. So these rapids here, you can only do this on the skiff. Even though it looks pretty wide, the sloop does not fit through here. So here we're delivering one, but we do have room for 2 tasks. So let's see what we got. Sunset Coast, 100% that one. And no other tasks are back. So we just got 1 task, but it's a really good one. Now we're going to Rellekka with room for 2, but you don't need to pick up 2 from Rellekka to make up your full task board. We know that we're starting in Sunset Coast with that one that we just picked up anyways. So we can just take the Aladrin Prif one. I'm just going to come here. I can go to my cargo hold a little bit early. Let the boat coast in like that and disembark. Let's deliver. And this is the one I'm looking for, Sunset Coast. So this is wonderful. And there's nothing else to take anyway, so it kind of worked out. So now we're going to go to Aladrin. And we're just going to grab the Prif task, which is fantastic because we're going to Prif anyways, and this is really good XP. And so is the one that we're getting Prif later for delivering this. So we're going to grab this one because it's always here. Ignore everything else. And then when we're getting the boat here, just hold down spacebar. Just like that. It'll instantly close the menu and teleport it. You don't need to click summon, which is great. We're going to Sunset Coast. I'm just going to activate my crystal extractor, but I'm not going to use a boost here. It's too close. You're not going to get much use out of it. And we're picking up 2 deliveries here with Sunset Coast. So now we're going over to Deepfin. There's only one task that ever brings you to Deepfin, and that is the one to Lunar Isle. So it's not a place you go to too often overall, but that task is really good. It's really good XP. You'll see when we deliver. Now, if we're taking a look at the route here, we know we're going through Prif, and we don't have to go through Port Roberts at all. So basically after Bluefin, we are going right over along the coast here to hit as many rapids as we can, and then to Prif. Click behind me, disembark. You're gonna see the boat, look at it. See it rotating? Still rotating, and boom, we are shot in a perfect direction here. Now this we are both picking up and delivering. So what I'm gonna do here, this is the one that was Lunar Isles before, but I do have room for another one because I just delivered. And I'm gonna get the follow-up one to the Aladrin one that I always get, which is this one here. Right? So every time you pick up the Aladrin task, Aladrin to Prif, you're always picking up Prif to Lunar. Now we're going through the blue portal. So this will spit us out, hopefully in the right location. Hopefully I didn't mess it up. Yeah, perfect. So I'm going to continue to use my win notes pretty excessively here because I'm going to pick up another one here. Just like that. So we're having so many stored here. And then I'm going to go through the red portal. You're going to see on the map where this puts me. It's going to put me, I'm going to rotate my camera north here. Pretty north, right to the north of the course, and we're just going to go up to Lunar Isle now super easily. And we have tons of wind to work with here because we got the extra wind modes, especially through the blue portal. There's an extra one there. Okay, about 15k. Let's come to the board. Let's grab the same tasks. Usually you grab the same task twice. And that's that. Now we just have 2 more deliveries to make, one at Etceteria and one at Rellekka. There was an extra one here, this one, Piscatoris here. Now, this one here, it's not a bad one, but I already think we have the route that we need. I will take it for now, right, just because I have the room for it, but I'm likely canceling it once I get to Aladrin. A lot of XP for that task, as you can see. And let's look at the board. Sunset Coast, where are you? There. Wait, that's not the right one. Looks like it reset, so we have Port Tyrus here instead, which is actually not bad. So I'm going to take the Port Tyrus one, and we're going to go to Aladrin. Sometimes I'll take a charter ship instead, like I'll do Deepfin, and then we'll do charter ship to Sunset Coast. But in this case, as mentioned, this one I'm not super happy with, so I'm going to cancel as I'm coming up here. We know we're going to Prif, we know we're going to Port Tyrus. Makes this a great failure task here, better than the other ones. Cancel and get our boat here and start the run again. So this is basically the same route as last time, except I was missing one Sunset Coast, and instead we have Port Tyrus. So basically we go to Deepfin, we go to Port Tyrus, we go to Prif, we deliver the Prif, pick up the Prif to Lunar as well, which means we get 3 deliveries up here at Lunar. I take the shortcut again to get up north here, and then we do the same route. We continue this. Now every route's going to be a little bit different every time. There are going to be times where you might not necessarily get a Sunset Coast or something like that. So you might start your route at even as high as Port Roberts or Civitas or something like that. So you'll have to keep that in mind, but generally speaking, a lot of the routes look something like this. That's everything you need to know about port tasks to get maximum XP per hour and a really good chance at getting the pet. There's a little bit of a learning curve here, definitely, but I just recommend giving it a shot. You're going to start getting used to seeing the same tasks over and over, and when you go to boards like the Aladrin board, you know exactly what to look for. The Prif board, you know exactly what to look for. So it starts to become pretty natural, and hopefully the advanced tips also helps you to nudge a little bit more extra XP per hour.